In this mini lecture, we're going to talk about insurance. So there are many types of insurance, and they're going to depend on what actually you're trying to insure. So the types of insurance are general liability, builder's risk, vehicle insurance, workers' compensation, unemployment, disability insurance, life insurance, and medical insurance. Now these fall into other parent categories such as general liability, builder's risk, and vehicle insurance all fall under business insurance. And we can do the same thing for workers' comp, unemployment, and disability insurance, where those are employee level insurances. These are often referred to as required benefits as well, but these are still insurance policies that need to be purchased and taken out when you have employees. And then life and medical fall into more or less benefits at that point. So let's start with business insurance. The first one is liability insurance. Liability insurance is not a requirement in most areas for contractors to have. However, it is strongly advised that you have some level of liability insurance. Now, the level of liability insurance is going to depend on the job or the task that you're performing. If you're working inside, maybe doing some wall repair or small painting, things like that, liability insurance is probably going to be relatively minimum for what you're covered for. On the other hand, if you're doing a roof in an urban area where homes are very close together and you're taking the shingles off the roof and you have to throw them down into a dumpster, there's a lot of liability. You may hit the house next door, or you may hit a vehicle, that type of thing. You want to be covered for that. It's important to know that liability does not cover your employees because they're covered under employee insurance, but it will cover injuries to others, such as neighbors or other bystanders of that nature. It can also cover products and completed operations. So when you complete something, that can be covered under it as well. The next one is builder's risk insurance, and there's different types of builder risk insurance, and that's going to protect against unforeseen conditions throughout the construction process. An example would be maybe you're framing up a home, you're building a home, and something happens and a fire occurs and burns part of the home you're building down. Obviously that's pretty catastrophic, and you'd want to be covered for that. Now, depending on the types of insurance, you're covered accordingly. So the actual materials that built that part of the house would be covered, and your tools and equipment would be covered under a policy that's called an inland marine policy. That's a form of builder's risk insurance. You can also have additions to your policy that cover fixtures in the home. One big example would be when the plumber comes in and installs copper pipe, or the electrician comes in and installs wiring which contains copper. Well, copper has been known to be stolen from job sites due to its high value at the scrapyard. The next one's vehicle insurance. Now, this vehicle insurance for business purposes is very similar to the vehicle insurance you would have on your own personal vehicle. It consists of liability and collision are the two main parts. Also the personal injury protection, and then the uninsured or the underinsured motorist coverage as well. So the liability insurance is a requirement regardless, and so is the personal injury protection. You have to have that, at least in New York State. The collision is going to be dependent on if you are taking out a loan for that vehicle. So do you pay a monthly payment on that vehicle? To have that, also known as a lien, you will have to have collision at that point. So the rates for vehicle insurance depend on, do you own it? Are you renting it? Are you leasing it? Talking about the vehicle there. And then what is the use of it? So, do you have a concrete mixer truck? Well, they weigh a lot. They're very dangerous to drive on the highway. It's going to cost more to insure, as opposed to maybe hybrid vehicles that maybe your office managers use. Those will be relatively cheaper to insure. Another big point of this is who will drive that vehicle. You do not want somebody with a bad driving record that's had a lot of speeding tickets, accidents, etc. driving your vehicle. So it's extremely important to do some type of background check into their driving record before you let just anybody drive your vehicles. That's ultimately going to affect your insurance rates. The next type of insurance is employee insurance. And as I mentioned before, this is often referred to as required benefits as well. So the first type of employee insurance is workers' compensation, also referred to as workers' comp. When you have employees, you are required to have workers' comp in New York State. If you are working by yourself, you are the only one that's working for your company, you are not required to have workers' comp. But the minute you hire an employee, you have to pay workers' comp. Now, workers' comp protects the employee or provides insurance for the employee when they are injured at work. The rates are going to vary depending on what type of work is being performed. So if you have office staff, the rate of workers' comp insurance is going to be less than somebody you may have, say, doing the roofing on a construction project. So the purpose of workers' comp is to provide lost wages and to pay for medical care for injuries that incur during the workday for the employee. In the event that the employee dies as a result of the accident at work, the spouse and the dependents are entitled to cash benefits. The spouse will collect for life, of course, unless they're remarried, and children up to the age of 18. Employers can satisfy the insurance requirements in one of three ways on the employee's behalf. The first way is to purchase a policy from the state insurance fund. The second would be to purchase a policy from an authorized insurance company that can write that policy on New York State's behalf. And the third way is to provide proof that the employee or the workers' comp policy is satisfied through self-insurance. The first one being the most common choice by most employers. In addition to paying into the insurance policy, employers are required to post a notice of compliance with the workers' compensation law and that the employer pays the premium for these insurance coverages. It's also important to note that if a lawsuit does result, the attorneys and the court fees are paid by the insurance company. So as I just mentioned, the medical expenses, court expenses, and attorney fees are paid by the insurance company. However, from a builder's or a contractor's point of view, there are some undesirable results. One being that the time that is used for the deposition and court time on the builder's behalf is lost and is not recouped in any way. And the insurance rate of the employer's premium is affected every time there's a workman's compensation claim. So it's very important to the builder to have safe work practices and ensure that each employee is working safely every day. The workman's compensation rates are set annually each year, so they could change, they could go up or down every year depending on the actual status of the funds. And this rate is set per $100 of payroll. So I have two examples here. One's for a home builder, roughly $15 per $100 of salary. And the shop worker is right around $13 per $100 of salary. Just to give you an idea of how much you would pay into this fund each time. So every $100 that builder earns, $15 must be paid towards the workers' compensation insurance policy. The next one is unemployment insurance, and unemployment insurance is intended to provide a paycheck or means of funds when the employee is out of work. The federal government and state government require employers to withhold certain percentages for these unemployment insurances. The New York State rate is a fixed rate. It could change every year depending on the fund balance, but it remains the same for the year. And the new employer rate is right around 3.4%. The next is New York State disability insurance. This is a required insurance for when employees are out of work and off the job to cover lost wages. The interesting thing here is the premiums are different between male and female. So male is usually right around $40 a year for disability insurance, whereas female is around $75 per year for insurance. The employer pays the premium, but has the ability to take 60 cents per week from the worker's salary to offset the cost. The last one is benefits. So the benefits are really going to be dependent upon the size of the company, meaning the number of employees. So if you have a certain number of employees, you may be required by either state or federal government to provide benefits to your employees. Now, these benefits are typically medical insurance of some type, maybe even retirement, which is a different topic altogether. And the way that these work is that the employer sets up a policy and contributes to this plan on your behalf, and then you as the employee pays the difference between them. So what you pay for health insurance maybe at your current job is a fraction of what the total bill is because your employer is paying for part of that as well. Now, it's also important to note that smaller companies do not have as much buying power with insurance policies. So in this case, if you have 5 employees, it's a little bit difficult to get a good low insurance rate on your policy because you don't have as much buying power essentially. Optional benefits for employees include long-term disability, vision insurance, dental insurance, etc., things like that. Those are additional offerings that the employer, at their will, may offer for employees. So this concludes the insurance mini lecture. If you have any questions, please reach out to me, email me, or contact me during my office hours. Thank you.